Tonight, confirmed.
I, Pete Hegseth, do solemnly swear. Do solemnly swear.
Pete Hegseth sworn into Trump's cabinet as the nation's 29th defense secretary.
Mr. McConnell, no.
Squeaking by, the vice president forced to break the Senate tie.
And the nomination is confirmed.
All as CBS News learns, the Army is preparing soldiers to deploy to the southern border within the next 24 to 48 hours.
I'm Willie James Inman, traveling with the president in Las Vegas as his administration makes controversial changes to the federal workforce.
Also tonight, looking for relief. Some rain expected in the area around those California wildfires, with the federal response to the devastation under scrutiny.
I'm Elise Preston in Pacific Palisades, California, where homeowners are frustrated with the recovery process.
Plus, freed. 4 Israeli soldiers held by Hamas for more than a year are home with their families tonight. Recall, the potentially dangerous problem for some Kia models. And later, what's in a name? When it comes to an American president, the answer could be cash.
The feeling of awe is why people buy these stockings. Otherwise, they're just pieces of paper with ink on them.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York with Jerika Duncan.
Good evening. Jerika is off. I'm Nancy Chen. We start tonight with President Trump putting his stamp on the federal government with unprecedented speed. And just 6 days in, he's already taking a victory lap with his first post-inauguration rally in Las Vegas.
I declared a national emergency at our southern border. Under our leadership, America is back open for business. I pardoned hundreds of political prisoners who had been viciously persecuted. We are now in a merit-based world.
Trump has 2 more members of his cabinet in place tonight. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, whose nomination once seemed on life support, was sworn in today after a 50-50 Senate vote. Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in to break the tie. And in an overnight move that seems to have caught much of Washington by surprise, the president fired the inspectors general, the title for top in-house watchdogs, from a number of federal agencies. With so much to cover, CBS's Willie James Inman is with the president in Las Vegas. Willie James, good evening.
Good evening to you, Nancy. As members of President Trump's cabinet are confirmed by the U.S. Senate, behind the scenes, the White House is making swift overnight changes to the federal workforce.
In a move that has caused bipartisan backlash, the Trump administration fired government watchdogs from a number of agencies overnight. In a letter obtained by CBS News, the now fired Inspector General of the Small Business Administration said that he believes the actions taken are not legally sufficient.
He seems to be trying to throw a monkey wrench into the kind of any independence left on our governments.
Under law, Congress must be given a 30-day heads up, along with a detailed explanation about the removal of an Inspector General. In a statement, Republican Senator Chuck Grassley said he would like further explanation from President Trump. The drastic shift is part of a flurry of executive action during President Trump's first few days in office, which also include the removal of diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The White House now says agencies should terminate DEI employees within 60 days.
The yeas are 59, the nays are 34. The nomination is confirmed.
Meanwhile, the president's cabinet is starting to take shape, with former South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem confirmed by the Senate this morning to serve as DHS Secretary. And Pete Hegseth is now the Secretary of Defense after a tie-breaking vote late Friday night.
I want to thank the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump. It is the honor of a lifetime, sir, to serve under you.
And Nancy, CBS News has learned that the Army has told units to prepare for possible deployment in anticipation of numbers at the U.S. southern border ramping up in the next 24 to 48 hours. Nancy?
Willie James Inman, thank you. Trump's Las Vegas stop is on his way back east from fire-ravaged Southern California, where he described the federal emergency response as, quote, not good. 5 major blazes have consumed some 55,000 acres. CBS's Elise Preston has the latest on the ground. Elise, good evening.
Nancy, good evening to you. More than 150,000 people have been displaced by the LA fires. Many of them are now in the process of trying to get help from FEMA.
It is a sliver of a difference between crying
between happiness and sheer anger.
Jens Lindemann's Pacific Palisades home was one of nearly 12,000 destroyed in the LA fires. A professional musician, in the days following the fire, Lindemann returned to the ruins of his home to take some time to reflect. We spoke with him today from Kansas, where he was preparing for a concert tonight. He and his wife have just started the long road to recovery.
We registered for FEMA immediately, and it has been as quick as one could imagine, but the system, it's overwhelmed right now.
Thousands are turning to FEMA for help with temporary housing and repair and replacement costs. The agency's website states that applicants may have to undergo an inspection. Yesterday in Pacific Palisades, President Trump suggested the future of FEMA is uncertain.
You don't need FEMA. You need a good state government. You have your own, essentially, FEMA. You fix it yourself.
The president toured the damage, now estimated at up to $275 billion.
What does that mean for the average homeowner's premium?
We're going to see an increase in what people are paying based on their risk profile.
Industry expert Carl Sussman.
What kind of strain does this put on the insurance company, the insurance agencies?
Well, there's no question that these dollars are huge, right? I'm not at this point seeing any indication that an insurance company will not be able to fulfill their obligations and pay their claims.
Getting back to normal is years away for fire victims like Lindemann.
This is not the time to talk about the fact that this could be too expensive. It's not too expensive. It's fixable.
Now, rain this weekend is expected to be light, but it could cause additional damage to these burned out areas as cleanup is underway. Nancy?
Elise, thank you. Keeping an eye on all the weather developments for us tonight is CBS meteorologist Andrew Kozak. Andrew, good evening.
Hey, Nancy, good evening. We are talking about kind of a double-edged sword when we start forecasting rain for Southern California. It's a great thing, but then you got to remember that a lot of these areas that have had these fires that we're dealing with, unfortunately, haven't had a drop of rain since the beginning of the year. So now you get that on top of ground that's so hard, almost like concrete. We're talking about the possibility for mudslides. Strengthening area of low pressure continues to bring in waves of rain. So the flooding threat is there for tonight and for tomorrow, but it does go away by the time we get into your Sunday. Very dry ground across the area. The drought is still in full force. Fire danger may be something we see into next week. So that's what we're dealing with across California for Sunday. The rest of the country, especially the East Coast, warming up much better than where we were at this time last weekend. Nancy?
Andrew, thank you. Tonight, the second hostage release between Israel and Hamas. 4 female Israeli soldiers kidnapped by Hamas during the October 7th terrorist attack are back home. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu calling it a very happy moment. CBS's Rami Inocencio has the details.
Good evening, Nancy. For the second time in 2 weekends, cheers and tears from Israelis for those 4 hostages and from Palestinians for those 200 prisoners swapped in exchange.
The buildup of joy and breakdown in tears. These 4 Israeli hostages reunited with their families after 15 months held hostage by Hamas. 19-year-old Liri Albag, the youngest of the freed women soldiers, and 20-year-olds Karina Ariev, Daniela Gilboa, and Nama Levy. Hamas-led militants threw Levy into a Jeep on October 7, 2023, abducting her and hundreds more into Gaza.
Someone speak English.
This morning, Hamas freed the 4 to the Red Cross in a mass propaganda spectacle in Gaza City's biggest square. Just miles north in Israel, families erupted with joy and relief blanketed the crowd at Hostages Square.
I just couldn't stop myself crying. Since the moment I saw her getting out of the car, I was crying like a baby.
These are not just people, these are our brothers and sisters.
Many might say similar for the nearly 200 Palestinians that Israel released from prison in exchange. 47-year-old Wael Abu Rida reunited with his family after a dozen years. He was halfway through a 25-year prison term for joining Palestinian Islamic Jihad, a U.S.-listed terror group. Thank God my son returned home safely, said his mother, kissing and holding him close.
And here in Tel Aviv, we've learned that the 4 hostages are in stable condition. Tonight, attention turns to next weekend and another hostage swap. Nancy, there are 89 Israelis still held in Gaza. 7 are Americans, 3 still believed alive.
Ramy, thank you. Straight ahead on the CBS Weekend News, find out why some American farmers are concerned about President Trump's plan to deport millions of undocumented immigrants. Car maker Kia is recalling thousands of vehicles for safety issues. Which models are affected? And presidential price tag will tell you the going rate for a piece of history. Tonight, many of America's farmers already feeling the pinch are worried about the possibility of more challenges. That's because President Trump is threatening to deport millions of undocumented immigrants, creating uncertainty about the future of the workforce.
It takes a lot of hands to hand harvest fruits and vegetables.
Talk to any farmer and they'll tell you it's difficult work.
This is a 24-hour job, so I need people who are willing to work in shifts at different times of the day.
But it's hard to find those people.
Yeah.
American farms are on the decline. There was a 7% drop in farms from 2017 to 2022, according to the USDA. That's about 142,000 fewer farms in just 5 years. These days, farmers are up against bird flu outbreaks, higher costs for feed and fertilizer, and climate change. But their livelihoods depend on a reliable workforce. And now they're concerned about how President Trump's campaign promise to launch the largest deportation effort in American history will play out. About 2/3 of crop workers are foreign-born. And while many come to the U.S. for seasonal jobs legally through H-2A visas, the USDA estimates that 42% of crop laborers are undocumented. New Jersey farmer Kurt Alstead says his workers are all legally authorized, but he's watching closely to see what Trump does next. When we talk about the ripple effects of a potential mass deportation, labor is already hard enough to find as is. Could it be even more difficult to find across the board if that does happen?
Well, there's no question in the United States we have a shrinking workforce. Anything that happens from a policy standpoint that reduces people in our workforce is going to make it very difficult for industry, and certainly for agriculture. We would be in big trouble if we lost workforce.
The labor union, United Farm Workers, has already seen an uptick in migrants asking for help.
The threats are scary, but at the same time, farm workers more than anyone understand the reality that without them, this work is not going to get done.
And fewer workers could mean less homegrown produce, according to University of Montana economist Diane Charlton.
But will consumers see higher prices if there are these mass deportations?
Maybe to a certain extent, consumers might not see a really big impact in the grocery stores, but there will be less domestically grown fruits and vegetables.
Does that mean more farms could go belly up?
Definitely.
It's still unclear exactly how Trump's mass deportation plan would affect farm workers. We reached out to the Trump team, which reiterated the president's commitment to deporting migrant criminals. Still ahead on the CBS Weekend News, an important car safety recall. Details when we return. That is American tennis player Madison Keys nabbing her first Grand Slam title. Today, the 19th seed beat the world's #1 player, Aryna Sabalenka, at this year's Australian Open. At 29, Keys becomes the tournament's second oldest first-time winner. Car maker Kia is recalling 80,000 vehicles sold in the United States for possible seatbelt and airbag issues. The affected vehicles are the Niro EV, and the Niro plug-in, all built between 2023 and 2025. Vehicle owners will be notified by March if they need to make repairs. Next on the CBS Weekend News, carrying on the legacy of one of the most influential choreographers of the 20th century. It has been 35 years since Alvin Ailey, one of the most influential choreographers of the 20th century, died of complications from AIDS. Now Ailey and his work are being remembered with a major exhibit in New York. Sharika Duncan paid a visit.
Alvin Ailey's legacy lives on through the choreography he pioneered, modern dance moves that express the struggle, the strength, and the joys of the Black experience in America.
He did this in 1958 at a time when even rehearsal studios in New York City were still segregated.
Adrian Edwards is the senior curator of the exhibition Edges of Ailey at New York's Whitney Museum of American Art.
It became very quickly clear to us that not only was it about the personal and the private, but it was about this constellation of figures who had profoundly shaped him.
Edwards says she spent the last 6 years sifting through hundreds of pieces of artwork, interviews, and Ailey's writings.
His notebooks are throughout this exhibition.
He reveals intimate thoughts of his life as a gay man and writes about his nervous breakdown in 1980.
We don't often think about what our dreams actually may cost us.
Ailey died from AIDS-related complications in 1989. A section of the famed AIDS memorial quilt with a nod to Ailey hangs as a tribute.
If Alvin Ailey had been alive today, what do you think he would say about this exhibition?
I would hope that he would feel recognized for the fullness of his influence, not just as one of America's, if not our best choreographers.
And the curse again.
But also one of our most important artists.
An artist who challenged us to feel something through dance. Sharika Duncan, CBS News, New York.
A powerful legacy. When we return, name dropping the going price for presidential signatures. Not even a week into his second term, President Trump has already signed more than 30 executive orders. Those signatures adding to the vast collection of presidential autographs. And as CBS's Barry Peterson discovered, not all are created equal.
Nathan Rabb of the Rabb Collection knows the value of presidential signatures.
Rank for me the American presidents, the most expensive and then down.
Yeah, so I would say the most expensive, the most actively looked for, the most desirable would be George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt.
The men you can see on Mount Rushmore, but you can't hold Mount Rushmore in your hands.
What is the attraction, Nathan, of holding something that's got a president's signature on it?
Well, you're touching a piece of history, and it's the only way that we have to directly connect with someone who we may admire. It's something that we know that they touched because they signed it.
And in the presidential collecting world, fame really does mean fortune.
And George Washington, you probably weren't entering the room, so to speak, for under 20, 30,000 and could go up to several million.
Several million?
Yeah, several million.
And modern moments can change the value of the long ago dead, like an obscure Alexander Hamilton. Then came the book and the musical. When they sang his praises, up went his prices.
Yeah, when I joined the business, you could buy Alexander Hamilton's letters for $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. And today, they routinely sell for more than $15,000, $20,000. The feeling of awe is why people buy these documents. Otherwise, they're just pieces of paper with ink on them.
And that awe really can bring them back to life. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Philadelphia.
That's the CBS Weekend News for this Saturday. We want to remind you, the all-new CBS Evening News premieres on Monday. John Dickerson and Maurice Dubois will co-anchor from New York and will regularly be joined by Margaret Brennan, CBS News Chief Foreign Affairs Correspondent and moderator of Face the Nation based in Washington. Evening News viewers will continue to get the signature reporting they have come to appreciate, and the broadcast will dedicate more space to exploring the why behind stories, so we can get a deeper understanding of the issues that are relevant in our lives. Make sure to check your local listings for times. For now, I'm Nancy Chen in New York. Good night.